So learning a scale or a chord or an arpeggio in different areas is a really great way to improve your understanding of the neck. It's something that I've definitely talked about in previous lessons, and it is definitely something I will bring up in future lessons, and that's exactly what we're doing today. And it's something that you should be practicing regularly, whether you're a beginner or an intermediate or even advanced player, because learning these shapes is important as you're getting started, but then refining them, playing them cleaner, understanding the context in which you can place them really ends up taking your skills from beginner to more advanced. So it's something that we should all be practicing regularly. So today we're going to be messing with a C major 7th chord, and we're going to learn it in 4 places on the neck. So we're taking this simple chord, and you might already be familiar with this. Again, it's important for you to assess where you're at in your guitar journey, to ask yourself, what do I need to do? What do I need to do specifically as an individual inside of this exercise to progress my skills, right? So we should all be doing something like this, but it's up to us to get really focused with what we need to do specifically inside of each exercise to improve our own skills. So, as I'm going through this, think about that for yourself, and I'll kind of bring up some examples of what I'm looking to do, and hopefully that gets the wheels turning for you as well. So anyways, we're taking the C major 7th, and before you even get started, here's one way where you can just start messing with this already and helping to improve your skills. Think about this as like 10 to 15 minutes of structured play on the front end of the rest of your session. It's really going to help enhance your understanding, and that's a great way to get things going as you jump into the songs and solos you want to learn, really understanding the context of what's going on. So anyways, something you can do right away is compare it to that C bar chord, standard C major. How does it sound different from, and as you're playing through it, maybe you start recognizing and that's something that, these are those like little happy accidents that go on when you're just kind of hammering certain shapes. Oh, interesting. Solidifying something you're familiar with and taking the time to recognize exactly what's going on underneath your fingers. So that's just something I was thinking about as I'm approaching this C major 7th, right? What makes it different from a C major? I'm taking this C note. We already have one in this chord, and I'm bringing it down to a B, which is the 7th note in the C major scale. And it gives it that interesting flavor, and now you're going to have access to it in a bunch of different areas on the neck, and hopefully you can see already how important that is, and even if you're a beginner, you've probably had enough situations where you're like, oh, I kind of want to learn this in a different position, or I want to have an excuse to get all of these shapes underneath my fingers. And what I'm saying is to, for the more beginner player, remove a metronome, remove the scenario in which you think you can play this, and just get the shapes underneath your fingers. And as you continue to play, those various contexts will reveal themselves. But for some of you intermediate and advanced players, you can start getting creative with how you want to approach this. Maybe you want to do a specific finger picking pattern and go through the chord shapes first and then hit the arpeggios, because that's the other aspect to this drill. We're going to hit all the arpeggio shapes as well. And if you're not familiar with that concept, we're just basically taking the notes from the chord and playing them in this linear fashion. So this chord is comprised of 1, 3, 5, 7, right? The 1 of the scale, the 3 of the scale, the 5 of the scale, and the 7 of the scale. And we're just playing through those in a linear fashion. So let's just kind of jump in. I'll start giving you shapes and notes so you can play along with me. But for this first shape, you may be familiar with this, okay? That's all right. Let's be patient and work through this in an efficient manner. But it's 3 on the A string, 5 on the D string, 4 on the G string, 5 on the B string. And the associated arpeggio is 3 on the A string, 2 on the B string, 2 on the D string, 5 on the D string, 4 on the G string, and then we're going up an octave, back to C, which is 5 on the G string, and then we're going back down. Excuse me. But that little accent I just made right there, that's me falling into the C major scale. And something you need to recognize about all these shapes and all these arpeggios is that now that you know that this is a major 7 arpeggio, if you hear this chord, or if you hear a major chord, because this arpeggio fits on top of major chords as well, whether they're major 7th or not, if you are in the key of C now, and ultimately the key of D or E, because just like the chords, the shapes are also movable, you'll have a place to go to start, getting into a lead line, or maybe you're in an ensemble and you need to do some fills in kind of a backing layer. You have a place to go where you can be a little bit more improvisational, because you have an understanding of the various shapes on the neck that you can start diving into based on the major chord that you're trying to layer over, or maybe you're just in the key of C and the arpeggio will actually work in a lot of the scenarios throughout the progressions. And what I mean by that, to just start getting creative with it, we're going to move up there in a second, but you can have fun with these, and I think as you take more time to practice, and really get focused as you're going through them, they will improve, they will get better. So, as I'm playing through this, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm making some mistakes, but this isn't my focused playing time, right? I'm just trying to share the information. But get creative, so play that shape, solidify your understanding of play through it linearly, but also recognize that now you have access to some lead notes. And again, this is why we hammer these really classic shapes, patterns over and over in our exercises, that you should start coming to those realizations on your own just through repetition, that that arpeggio connects to another shape. So, oh my goodness, having that association of that arpeggio shape can make you just realize, okay, I'm in the key of C. Oh, wait a second. It allows you to identify where you're at on the neck. So even if you decide not to use the arpeggio in that linear fashion, or you don't exactly want to play just the notes in the arpeggio, you want to utilize the scale as well, it'll still allow you to identify where you need to be on the neck. And that's kind of the case with the rest of the shapes and the rest of the arpeggio notes. And again, you can have fun if you just treat this as a relaxed 10 to 15 minute warm-up. You can have fun figuring out how can you connect the shapes between the chords and the arpeggios. So the second one is here, up on the 8th fret, so it's 8 on the low E, 9 on the D string, 9 on the G string, 8 on the B string. Right, so deeper bass here. Maybe this is the variation you go with if you're, it's just you and a vocalist or something, so you can get that bass note in there. Maybe you don't even play the bass note here, and you let the bass player take care of that in an ensemble, and you just play these 3 notes, or you play them, individually like that in kind of that arpeggio fashion. Really up to you, but that's just a way to start thinking about the different scenarios and recognizing the unique values to each of these shapes. Then we have the shape right here, very classic shape. These are all classic shapes. We're going 10 on the D string, 9 on the G string, 8 on the B string, and 7 on the high E. And the arpeggio is that same shape, because that arpeggio goes 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, right, back to that original note, an octave higher. But these other shapes don't express themselves in that linear fashion. This is 1 and then 5, so we have to play that 3 here. Just to, again, even if you're not totally understanding the importance, that's okay, just sit with that information. I do often find with guitar, with my own students, with my own playing, these situations in which the information becomes valuable, they just reveal themselves through practice and repetition. The next shape and final shape is up here, starting on the 10th fret. So we've got 10 on the D string, and then we've got 12 on the G, B, and high E. So maybe you're a beginner player, and a lot of instructors are like, well, only keep it to open chords, stay down here. Well, maybe you're realizing, wait a second, that's a really nice way to start working on a small bar. It's just a 3-note bar, and you're also having to bar with your index finger, or you can choose to, you don't have to, but I think it's the easier way to play it. Maybe that's an easier bar chord for you to just play around with before you start diving deeper into some other shapes. Maybe that's your home base shape for now. And then the arpeggio, that's something for you to think about. The arpeggio is 10 on the D string, 9 on the G string, 12 on the G string, 12 on the B string, 13 on the B string. Excuse my noodling, and excuse the stank face. I feel like that's unavoidable for me. But it's important to recognize that we can all use this as a warm-up. Just getting familiar, taking some deep breaths, getting my my hands warm. You can go from shape into linear shape. See how that feels under your fingers. Go up here. Pretty much the same. Maybe there's a different flavor here. And that little bend is me just bending from the 3 to 4. Seven to 1. Right, so right before the root, you can do that half bend. And you can do it from 3 to 4. Again, if you're not quite sure what does he mean by that, those are just notes in the major scale that I'm referencing. And again, just attacking this, being diligent with your practice will get you more familiar with those things, so I don't want to get too heady with all of that. Just take 10 to 15 minutes enjoying playing through these shapes, getting more familiar with them, asking yourself about the importance. Maybe it leads you to write a song or something as you're getting warmed up. You start getting more familiar with what's going on underneath your fingers. I think those things happen quite often. I always get excited when students are sharing those experiences. Okay, I was playing with this scale shape, or I was playing with this concept, and then, I had this aha moment. So that's what I'm always trying to chase myself before I start playing, is getting really tuned in. So that's what we're doing here. That's what we do with all of our exercises. If you did find this helpful, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more of these. We are going to show you all of the shapes individually, the chords and the arpeggios in just a moment. I do suggest we only flash the tabs for a moment. Pause the video, take a screenshot so you can have these for whenever you'd like to use them. Leave a comment if you have any suggestions, or you want to take any other concepts and throw them into this kind of exercise format, how you can start approaching them and breaking them down for yourself. And that should take care of that. If you heard any kind of light snoring in the background, it's my small dog who's in here with me. And okay, that's that. Have fun with this. Hopefully it's helpful for you, and we'll see you next time.